Now, we're entering the last part of Chapter 4. As before, we're looking at marketing metrics. In Chapter 4, we're going to look at profit and loss plots, like what you see on your screen. We're simply looking at the profit and loss as a function of volume. Usually it's some straight line going up. So a profit and loss plots, and we'll take a look at break-even analysis. Now, given our profit equation of the firm, up here at the beginning, what we do is simply say, well, at break-even volume, we're breaking even. That means profit is 0. That's breaking even. When you're in the black, that's over here, that means you're making profit. You're in the red, that's down there, that means you're making a loss. And break-even is when you're making no profit and no loss. So this is red, this is black. Perhaps I should have even changed the color of my pen. Oh well. The break-even volume, we'll denote that by QBE, for break-even. Taking our profit equation of the firm, simply make profit equal 0. Solve for the Q, simple algebra. You get the break-even volume at the fixed cost over price less variable cost. We're going to play with that. So for instance, suppose the price of some product is $1.50. The variable cost is 25 cents, and my fixed cost is $2,000. I can then calculate my break-even volume. Break-even volume. Using my equation, which I had, as simply equal to my fixed cost divided by the difference of price and variable cost. And I find, well, break-even volume is not a dollars. It's volume. It's a count. And I can't sell a fraction of a product. I have to sell whole products. So my break-even volume is 16,000 units. I can also plot my break-even volume in terms I'm not plotting break-even volume. I'm going to just plot quantity sold and profit or loss. I can imagine selling different units. I'm going to go up by 100 equals the one above plus 100. You can go up by smaller intervals or larger intervals. It doesn't really make a difference. I'm going to go all the way up to 2,500. I think that'll be sufficient for demonstrating the concept. My profit or loss is, well, using the profit equation of the firm, quantity sold times the difference of my price less my variable cost less my fixed cost. That's a loss. I could change the format to even make it more obvious that that's a loss. That's a negative accounting. Okay. There we have it. See? Loss. It's red. So I put in some dollar signs for our row numbers for when I want to hold constant. I can then copy and paste. Paste. We see that for small volumes we lose money. At 1,600 we break even. There's no profit. We already calculated it here. And for larger volumes, you start to make money. Profit and loss plots are commonly requested, so let's show you how to make one. It's a pretty simple approach. Insert a line plot, and you simply plot the data. Add series name, profit or loss, series values. Well, that's my profit or loss for my French fry stand. Okay. Quantity sold is my x-axis. Okay. Okay. There's my profit or loss plot for my French fry stand. I can title axis. Let's go ahead and just do that quickly. And let's take also a shortcut by letting Excel prepare all the parts for me. Where is the right tool? Since I do not see the right tool, there it is. Axis title, profit, loss. Call this quantity sold, get rid of that, call it profit loss at a French fry stand. We have here a plot of my profit and loss at a French fry stand. I particularly do not like the way that this axis shows up, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust that. Format the axis, layout, there we go, axis. I think I just need to hit format axis. All I am is right clicking. I'm going to change the alignment so it appears in this format. Close. Now it's easier to read at least those numbers. There's my profit and loss at the French fry stand. For small volumes, I lose money. For higher volumes other than 16,000, I begin to add money. I can add more to this. For instance, I can add grid lines in this format as well. Nice, clean, exactly where things fit. This discussion of profit and loss and break even leads naturally into the question of scenario analysis. Scenario analysis is a way of looking at the question, if this, then what? If I change this variable within my firm, or if I change this aspect of my product or this way of selling, then what? What happens to my profitability? What happens to the ability of my firm to compete? We'll conduct some scenario analysis with the profit and loss equation of the firm, or the profit equation of the firm. After we do this, you'll be prepared to do retail firm performance, as well as we all sell ice cream. So for instance, here's my ice cream cart. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, make it easier for you to see what's going on. Here's my ice cream cart. Currently my price is $1.50. My initial condition says my price is $1.50. My sales volume is 2,234 French fries a day, or a week. I think this would be a week. My variable cost is 25 cents. My fixed cost is 2,000. I can calculate my profitability underneath this scenario. Equals the quantity sold times my difference of price and variable cost less fixed cost. I'm currently making $792.50. Suppose I look at what would happen if I was able to raise the price at 10%, holding all else constant. Well, then my price would equal my initial price times 1 plus 0.1, that's 10% of an improvement. All else will remain the same. Copy and paste this down. Oops. Copy, paste that down. Go ahead and just paste the formulas. There we have it. Let's calculate my new profitability. My new profitability cannot be expressed. Let's make this a little bit wider then. Let's make all of these a little bit wider. There we go. So that's a little bit too much wider. There we have it. Suddenly my profitability went up from $792 to $1,127. I need to back up so that you make sure you understand how Excel works. When the columns are too wide, you get these hash sounds, hash signs / pound signs everywhere. Simply, when you see that, recognize that as a need to either reduce the number of decimals by hitting this, or widening the column, which is the choice I made. So there's my profit. My change of profit would be equal to my new less the old. There we have it. Profit would have gone up by roughly $300. Yes, I'm putting a dollar sign there because I'm going to use this again and again. $335. To look at a percent change of profit, I use my change of profit as a percentage of my initial profit. So profit will increase by 42%. Again, I'm going to put the dollar sign here to make my life easier in the future. In fact, I'm going to put dollar signs in quite a few places. Here, I'm going to put it here, I'm going to put it here, and I'm even going to put it here. Now I'm going to copy and paste all of this over one row and change this back so that it doesn't reflect a 10% increase in price. I'm going to compare it to lots of different scenarios as you see going across. So I'm just going to copy and paste this whole set of equations across all the different scenarios. Then go back through and individually change them to reflect the scenario under consideration. In this one, we're taking a look at a 10% increase in sales volume. Here's my sales volume. I need to multiply that by 10% or 1.1. We did this. You see now profit goes up by 35% to $279.25. Increasing price by 10% improved my profitability more than increasing sales volume by 10%. Let's go to the next one. The 10% decrease in variable cost. This might be achieved by basically beating up suppliers somewhat, times 0.9, or reducing the quality of a product. That improved my profitability by 7%. Decrease fixed cost by 10%. Here's my fixed cost. I'm going to multiply that by 10%, by 1 less 10%, otherwise known as 0.9. So it'll be 10% less than what it was. There's my profit increase of 25%. Now let's take a look at this. Let's just take a look at these first ones. These right here. We'll get to these others in a second. So I'm going to actually just write them out. If I take a 10% increase in price, I'm able to improve my profit by $300 to reach a 42% improvement in profitability. This is what happens simply by if I'm able to increase the price without losing any sales. Now you might be saying from your microeconomics class, but usually if I raise price, I might lose sales. Yeah, that's true. But let's just take a look first. What happens if you are able to raise price? My profit will improve by 40% if I increase my price by 10%. If I increase my sales by 10%, telling my salespeople to go sell more, my marketing communications people to make better marketing communications, but just trying to help and optimize my performance in this area, and I do it by 10% improvement, my profit goes up by 35%. Still a pretty good improvement in profitability, but not near as good as what I'd get if I was able to improve my price by 10%. Take another approach. Let's say I try to beat up my suppliers and I reduce my variable cost by 10%, or otherwise cheapen the product but hold everything else constant. My profit will have gone up by a measly $55 to or otherwise known as 7%. So not a huge improvement of profitability for this French fry stand. Different companies will, of course, have different results. 10% decrease in fixed cost. Perhaps I try to negotiate lower rent, or, well, unpleasantly put, the most common way in which a company reduces fixed cost is they fire people. So suppose I fire 10% of my workforce, or I reduce my fixed cost by 10% in some other manner, perhaps lowering interest rates on my loans or something of that nature. My profit will go up by $200 or 25%. Now between these 4 different levers a company has to drive profit, price, volume, cost, both in variable and fixed, we see the largest impact on profit is price. If you're able to increase price by a little bit, you get a large impact on the profitability of the firm. Okay, now let's take a look at the last 3 scenarios. The 10% increase in price and a 10% decrease in volume. So this is the case where you jack the price up, but you expect to lose volume. So now my price, I'm going to go ahead and change this out. My price now is my original price times 1.1. My volume is my original volume times 0.9, or 10% decrease. Notice how in this scenario, a 10% improvement in price, losing 10% of my customers, still left me more profitable. Interesting. What if I did it the other way? I cut my prices and said I want to grow my volume. or put in terms of a scenario, I cut my prices by 10% in the hopes of growing my volume by 10%. Notice first I put this in a casual format. Let's cut prices and go for volume. Then I put this in a quantitative format. Let's cut prices by 10% and try to grow my volume by 10%. So in the scenario analysis, we use that quantitative statement of the casual claim and say, well, what would happen? I'm going to cut my price by 10%. So this is going to go down to 0.9 of what it started out. Oops. Times 0.9. And this is going to go up by 10% times 1.1. Notice I've lost money. Unless I've lost $90 on profitability, or I'm down 11%. So cutting price and to chase volume for this particular company does not look like a good idea. Next, let's say that I tried to increase my variable cost and the quantity sold, both by 10%. So this is where like the marketing manager comes to you and says, I think that if I make a better product, I can sell more. Then your question becomes, well, how much better and how much more? And I said, I'm going to make this 10% better and I'm going to sell 10% more. Immediately you can say, well, I'm going to apply the sales volume goes up by 10%, 1.1, and my variable cost, because I'm increasing the quality by 1.1, goes up to times 1.1, or 10%. Now notice that in this scenario, I have a very large improvement in profitability, with my profit going up by 27%. Scenario analysis can take some simple approaches, such as you have here. Put those simpler approaches in light, well, aqua. So it can take a simpler approach, or it can take something more complex, like what you see here. Put that in purple. You can use scenario analysis to address many different questions. Basically say, well, okay, you've said it to me casually. I'm going to cut price here. I'm going to cut price and go after volume. Well, how much are you going to cut price? And how much do you think you'll gain in volume? Then you calculate out, given what you told me, what is the impact on profit, both in absolute terms and in percentage terms. Or you can say, I'm going to cheapen the quality and go for less volume. Or you can say instead, I'm going to improve the quality and go for more volume. Well, what is the exact change in profit, both in absolute terms and in percentage terms? Scenario analysis helps to address many questions in marketing to avoid traps and painful missteps in marketing decisions. And you, as a marketing person, are in charge of price. You're held responsible for this decision. You're definitely held responsible for sales volume. Your job is to sell products at a good price. When you design your product and product management, you're affecting your variable cost. And as you do more advertising, or as you choose a different location, you're also affecting your rent, your fixed cost. So you need to think about how these different scenario changes might affect different variables in the profit equation of the firm. Try quantifying it and saying, well, if this, then what? Did it work out for us? Did profit improve, like it did here, or did it get hurt, like it did there? This completes the video for Chapter 4. At this point, you should be prepared to complete the retail firm exercise listed at the end of Chapter 4, as well as the We All Sell Ice Cream, We All Scream for Ice Cream exercise, which will require you to do a similar type scenario analysis for an ice cream stand. I wish you well, and I look forward to speaking to you as we begin the next chapter. Have a good day.